Yo, welcome to the One Choice Radio podcast. I am your host, Tony Hoffman, and this is another episode of The Truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. I want to talk about plans today because without a plan, you're never going to make the changes that you want to make. You're never going to accomplish the goals that you want to accomplish, and you're going to find yourself trying things, stopping, and you're actually never going to see things through all the way, or you're never going to be able to make the progress to actually achieve your goals. The other day, I got a message from a person who asked me about some advice on them increasing their work ethic. They recognized that they were talented. They recognized that they had a gift, but they also recognized that that talent and that gift, much like myself when I was a younger person, had led them to kind of be apathetic or lazy. And so they want to increase their work ethic. The one thing I told this person was, the goal is to increase the work ethic, but what are you going to do? What's your plan? Because realistically, increasing your work ethic is such a broad statement, because they were talking about school, they were talking about sports. You know, increasing your work ethic has a lot to do with your mental character. There's just so much that goes into it. It's not just increasing your work ethic across the board that's just going to magically appear. You have to start somewhere. And that goes for anything. It doesn't matter if it's your work ethic. It doesn't matter if it's your job. It doesn't matter if it's your personal development, spiritual development. You have to have a plan. And if you don't have a plan, it's not going to happen. You're never going to get there. I want to tell you a story. So when I was in prison, my dad was sending me a few books. Not a bunch. I read the Bible mostly when I was in prison. But I did get this book from my dad on nutrition because I wanted to read about nutrition, and I wanted to make sure that when I got out to race BMX, that I had all of my ducks in a row and I knew how to eat to fuel myself properly for professional sports. So I got this book called Eat Right to Train Right, written by Lance Armstrong's coach, Chris Carmichael. And when I got this book, I started reading this book and learned a lot about nutrition, obviously, but also the book was a catalyst for promoting Chris Carmichael's training company called CTS, Carmichael Training Systems. They're out of Colorado Springs, Colorado, and they train road bikers, BMXers, motorcyclers, triathletes, Ironman athletes. They can train pretty much everybody. So I tell my dad, when I get out of here, this is what we got to do. We got to get with this training company, because this training company was building their training regiments around science-based training. So they were using power meters, heart rate monitors, VO2 max testing, lactic threshold testing, a lot of different testing methods for fitness that I felt was, if we're going to do this, we got to do it right, and we can't cut any corners because I want to be successful. So when I got out of prison, we reached out to that company, and I got a coach from there. His name was Jason Simon, still friends with the guy today. And the second time I went to visit Jason in Colorado Springs, it was the second year I was working with him, Chris Carmichael had heard about my story, and he asked me to come and meet him in his office. So I went to his office that day that Jason said, "Hey, Chris wants to meet you this afternoon." And I remember I was really excited because, at the time, this was Lance Armstrong's coach. I don't think that Chris had anything to do with his cheating regimen, but regardless, it was Chris Carmichael. He's coached some very decorated athletes, Lance Armstrong being the biggest name, and he wanted to meet me. So I went to his office, and I remember I sat down, and he said, "I love your story. I want to help you." And I remember thinking, this is so crazy. This is so crazy. And he said, "What are your goals?" And I said, "You know what? My goal is obviously to go to the Olympics. I want to go to the Olympics, but I want to win professional races as well." And I explained to him the process of what I was doing and how I started in a prison cell. And I said that I told myself that when I was in prison that I needed to accomplish this training regiment while I was in prison, and I would advance from that training regiment. And when I got out, I would get to the track, and by the time I was at such and such time on my bike, back on my bike, that I would have progressed to a certain thing. And then I said, and I need to get invited to the Olympic Training Center. And hopefully when I get to the Olympic Training Center, I can start going to some of these overseas races and I can find myself in Olympic form possibly. And I remember his response. He said, "You've got this whole thing planned out, don't you?" And I said, "Yes, sir. I've been planning this since I was in prison. Every move has been a calculated move that I believed was going to get me to where I'm going." Every move was calculated from the moment I was in a prison cell. I tell people I started a micro process. I told myself I was going to make the Olympics by learning how to brush my teeth every single day. And then once I learned how to brush my teeth, I learned how to make my bed. Once I learned how to make my bed, I learned how to organize my stuff. See, for me, the plan was really, really simple. For you, I don't know how simple your plan is, but I know the more simple you make it, the higher percentage you're going to have of executing it and the plan moving you forward. So Chris was completely impressed by my planning that I had set out for myself. And 2 hours later, I'm in his Mercedes, little mini Mercedes SUV, and he's telling me all about Lance Armstrong and kind of the glory days of, road cycling. And I stopped and I told him, I said, "Dude, this is so crazy." He said, "What are you talking about?" I said, 2 years ago, I was on a prison bunk in Tehachapi State Prison in the gym, bunk 1 up, reading your book, Eat Right to Train Right. And right now, I'm sitting in your car and we're going to the BMX track and you are helping provide resources to make my plan work. It was unbelievable. It's still one of the coolest moments that I think I've shared with somebody in my life because I went from a prison bunk to the car of the guy's book that I was reading. But it all started with the plan. The plan is what took me to that moment. You have to understand this, though. When you set out and you make a plan, the plan is not going to be foolproof. The plan is going to have errors. The plan is going to have holes. That's okay. But see, what we do is we fail to make a plan and then we never advance. Because without a plan, you can advance. But a plan with holes is actually a perfect plan because a plan with holes offers you growth and the ability to make a mistake and see how you have to adjust that plan. A lot of times our fear, the emotional fear, will stop us from executing or moving forward. When you have a plan, the plan becomes your accountability partner. See, my plan to work with CTS and go to the Olympics, that plan didn't work. Nor did my plan to get me to the Olympics. I had left CTS about 4 months later and started training myself. What I started doing when I was training myself was carefully documenting every move that I made in my training, calculating sleep results, calculating gym results, calculating sprint results, testing some of the stuff that I was doing with other athletes and seeing if I couldn't get the same results out of them. And along the way, I found holes in my plan. And when I found a hole in my plan, because I was documenting and because I had an accountability partner call the plan, I could see where these mistakes were being made and I could easily correct those mistakes. That's why it's important to have your plan written down. You can have a plan in your head, but your head isn't your accountability partner. The piece of paper or the dry erase board or wherever it is that you write your stuff down, that's your accountability partner. You come back and you report to your accountability partner, and your accountability partner says, "Hey, this didn't work." And you say, "Okay, I'm going to switch this part of the plan and I'm going to plug in this piece to the plan and I'm going to test this out." When you don't have that accountability partner, what happens is you're not able to actually keep track of how your plan is doing and focus on the micro components of the plan. And so it kind of just all gets lost in translation, because instead of just changing one little piece of the plan at a time, you end up changing everything or too many things, and then you lose track. When you lose track and you don't get the results, guess what happens? You lose motivation, because you start to tell yourself the plan's not working. The plan's never going to work. But in reality, it's not that the plan doesn't work. It's that bad planning was in place, or no planning was in place. The only person to blame in that situation is yourself. And you know that deep inside when the plan's not working, and because you don't have an actual plan that's an accountability partner. You blame yourself, you feel a little guilty, you have a little shame, so you get a little sad, and then you walk away, and what do? You tell yourself the biggest lie you could ever tell yourself in the world. See, it didn't work. I tried that, but it didn't work. When you see somebody else trying something you were wanting to do, what do? Oh yeah, I tried that, but it didn't work. It's like when I go to AA meetings or NA meetings and you talk to somebody and they say, yeah, I've gone to meetings, it didn't work. Did you do the 12 steps? Yeah, it's not really for me. Well, then you didn't do the program. So you can't really say that it didn't work because you never really did it in the first place. But that's a really easy mindset to get caught up in, because really, when somebody goes to set out and do something, a successful person, they understand that the plan is not bulletproof and that the plan is not a surefire way to success. The surefire way to success is hard work, discipline, sacrifice, willingness, and dynamic ability to change directions. And the dynamic ability to change directions is what we're talking about right now, according to the plan. Because when the plan doesn't work, your dynamic ability to change directions and make shifts and make moves into the plan that weren't originally there is how you're going to become successful over time, because the plan won't be bulletproof. So when I left CTS, I started training myself. Documenting things. And the one thing that I was always trying to do was to figure out how I could train the least amount of time and get the same result. And so I played with the numbers in training. And I constantly was plugging in, taking out, and testing new ideas to try and manipulate the training results and the numbers that I was getting. And over time, I developed a system that works, a system that has worked, but that doesn't mean that the system is done and will work forever, because it's had to change. I've had to change. There are things that you're going to have to change, but you will fail to execute on whatever it is that you're trying to change about yourself right now. You will fail to execute in whatever it is that you're trying to improve in your workplace. You will fail at whatever endeavor that you're trying to find growth or progress in without the plan. Get your plan, write it down. It doesn't matter how stupid the plan looks. It doesn't matter how many holes are in the plan, because I can guarantee you this, that when you just start on the plan, even if there's 5 components, one of those components is right. The next component that is right is movement. See, the universe doesn't want you to lose. The universe wants you to win, but the universe wants you to work. And you have to work and then listen to the universe direct you. See, we think, oh man, my plan's not working. 1 out of 5 things are working. Okay. So what is the universe saying about the other 4 things that needs to change? Because here's the gift of the universe and why it wants you to win. When you start moving forward, you start learning new things, meeting new people, or acquiring new skills that allow you to take the 4 failures and plug them in with one of the new components that you've gained through your movement in the plan. And see, this is where people get frustrated instead of motivated. See, the poster behind me says, your greatest teacher is your last mistake. When I make mistakes, I embrace those mistakes because it's teaching me how to grow and how to be better. So while you're on the plan, you have to expect that parts of the plan aren't going to work, but that's okay because you're making movement and you're going to add in the new skills, the new growth, the new resource through somebody else that you've met to strengthen your plan. My public speaking plan has taken many years to come to fruition. And 2018, I am now starting to feel like the momentum that I have is catapulting me to the top of my arena. But the plan has made many changes. The plan has changed dramatically since 2010 when I started public speaking. And I am constantly trying to evolve and acquire new skills as a speaker and my marketing ability and my businessmanship, if that's even a word. In every aspect of my speaking, I'm trying to move forward. I have failed, and I have failed miserably at times in my speaking to the point that I wanted to quit. But I had a routine, and I have a routine. And that routine is to follow the plan, to make adjustments to the plan, and to stick to the plan. Because to me, there's no alternative. To me, I'm not going to be the same person tomorrow that I am today. I'm not going to be the same person in 1 year that I am today. I'm not going to accept mediocrity in my life. If that's what I wanted, I would still be on drugs. If that's what I wanted, I wouldn't be in the field of speaking, of trying to help people become better. If that's what I wanted, I wouldn't be talking into a microphone right now trying to motivate you to recognize that the key to getting to where you want to go is the plan that you create, the plan that you follow, and the plan that you dedicate every single breath of your life to. And that's the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.